Good evening. This is the December 19th meeting of the Charles County Charter Board. The Maryland Constitution provides for the creation of a charter board, and one of the ways that a charter board can come into being is by action of the local government. And in Charles County's case, the county commissioners created this board. The Maryland Constitution requires the board to consist of no less than 5 and no more than 9 members. There are 9 members of this board as well as alternates. It's our task to write a new form of county government. The Constitution allows us 18 months to draft our proposal. The Constitution requires that we submit our proposed charter for publication by the county commissioners at least 90 and no more than 120 days before the election. So it will be on the ballot for the voters to accept or reject in November of 2014 when they are voting for governor, delegates, county commissioners, and so forth. We've listened to many current and former government officials regarding their suggestions. Topics have included, should we have a county executive? Should we establish term limits? How many council members should a county council have? Should council members be elected at large or by district or some combination? What checks and balances should be put in place? Would changes be cost effective? Should we impose taxing, spending, and or borrowing limits? This list is not exhaustive. However, while we're still open to hearing from experts and officials as we proceed, we intend to have public forums, first so that we can hear from the public and educate ourselves regarding the viewpoints of the public, and second, to share with the public how we've weighed the options and reached a consensus on each issue. We intend to have our initial draft finished by April of 2014. Some sections are already on the Internet. Viewers are welcome to view our progress at charlescountymd.gov. And then you go to the Charter Board site, you scroll down to the Charter Board site, and you can find the sections that we've completed at this point. Tonight, Victor Turvila, formerly associated with the University of Maryland Institute for Governmental Service, and someone who's participated in the writing of 7 charters in other counties, is here to assist us in working on writing some of the charter tonight. We intend to write the charter for part of the meeting, and then we, in addition, we will go over a presentation. We have a draft presentation that we're going to discuss with Mr. Turvila, and a survey, and then and that's the agenda for today. Okay? Okay, great. There was Melody has gone back to check her notes. For those of you who were here, there was one issue where I suggested that we wait until everybody was back, and I can't remember what it was, and neither can she, but she says when she goes, you remember?
It was a requirement for every single head of department to live in charge, because we agree with of course for the commissioners and for the state,
the attorney.
the attorney.
Okay.
But we are debating of every single
And
head
the
department.
administrator.
Exactly, the administrator.
The county administrator, the county attorney.
And then the others was.
Yeah, you've refreshed my recollection. So then the next issue is, what about the department heads?
Yeah.
And do we want to make that requirement for them? On the one hand, the county attorney and the county administrator are obviously towards the top of the pyramid. These people would be one step below them. On the one hand, you want people who are familiar with the county. On the other hand, you don't want to limit your talent pool. And we thought that we would hear from, because we were missing 3 people, we would try to hear from everybody before we made a decision on that one. And I see 2 of the people who we were missing. And
3 of them, right?
1,
Yeah.
2. We're both we're
No, I missed the last meeting.
okay.
Matt was
Yeah.
gone as
So,
well.
do we have any viewpoints on it?
Maybe we should find a section so they can.
This is section 412. It's on page 16 of the draft that we just issued, but it's section 412. And actually, there's nothing in there now about residency requirements. Yeah. 412.
It would be 4
Yes.
and 3, I guess. right?
When you say there isn't now,
Well-
in the,
No, it would be 412. So,
Well, in 410
It's in-
there
it's
is.
in here.
In
You mean in the
410,
existing
it
code?
says the chief administrative officer shall be a resident of the county within 6 months of appointment. So then the issue,
Right.
so then we decided that the county attorney would also have to meet that requirement. And then the next issue, how far down are we going to go? Are we going to say?
413 is the one that deals with,
well, no, it would be, well, I think it's 412, under the appointment and removal of department heads and others. So it would probably be in that first or second paragraph. And right now, of course, there's nothing in there because we haven't made it any, we haven't really pushed into that.
oh, but the one that she just handed out has a 413, and it has that,
Temporary administrative appointments?
no, it's called 413, appointment and removal of department heads and others. It's in the handout tonight.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong draft.
That's right. I
Okay,
see
sorry,
it.
my point, sorry, go.
So the issue is, do we want to extend that to the next level or not?
These are the department heads,
Yeah.
Department.
whether they must become a resident of Charles County within 6 months. Is that what we're saying?
Do,
If we want to put the same requirement on them that we're putting on the county administrator and the county
do
attorney.
our neighboring counties have that kind of restriction?
You know, the issue is it in the charter or is it in an ordinance? And so that's the question we have. Most of them have 6-month requirements, but most of them don't have it in the charter. So, you know, it's sort of like, do you want to pop it into the charter? Because at some point, you can do it by ordinance if you don't want to do it today. You know, if this group doesn't want to do it today, they could do it sometime in the future if they wish to.
I'd argue in the infancy, assuming that a charter is passed, in the infancy of the charter, that's probably something to kick down the can, because the biggest issue I have with that requirement is population. We're at 330,000 for the entire Southern Maryland area. If there were 600 or 700,000 people in Charles County, I'd feel more comfortable with that, but I think you limit your talent pool to some degree by doing it that way. And if that's something that we don't necessarily have to address because it's not an issue, but could be one when population numbers hit X or Y, then maybe it's addressed by ordinance as opposed to having it be in the charter at this point. My opinion.
I don't know. I kind of think of department head. Why shouldn't they live in Charles County? Why shouldn't they contribute to the tax base? You know, and below department head, I don't have any problem with, but department heads, and with the job market the way it is, I don't think we're going to have a problem with people applying for jobs. But, you know, I don't know.
But we're talking about forever.
Yeah,
not just-
I know. I know we're talking about forever. But, and forever is my idea that if you're going to work for us, then you should want to live here if you're a department head and contribute to the community and contribute to the tax base.
But you want your opinion here on the charter board, or you want your opinion on the ordinance, right?
Well, the problem with, well, it depends on how strongly you feel about it, because if you feel real strongly about it, you would want it in the charter. Because if it's not in the charter, it can be changed without the people approving it, obviously, right? So.
Well, let me just say, when I was the agency head for the state's attorney's office, and this is farther down the pyramid, I hired most of the attorneys that I hired were from outside the county. Over 90%.
Wow.
And some moved down here, some didn't. I didn't make it a requirement. That's it's.
I don't know that you necessarily do have the talent pool that you think you do. You know, there's the federal, if it's true that this is a bedroom kind of county and most people work in D.C., the salaries are higher there, and then to get somebody to trade that off, I don't know that we have to make that choice now. At the minimum, I would say, let's leave it as either or and get some feedback when we talk to the citizens about it.
Quick question. So the county exec, what is the requirement for the county exec?
6 months residency within 6 months.
6
Well,
months?
no,
No,
well,
no,
No, they
no,
must
no.
be
It must be a
resident.
resident
For
time.
how long? Prior to
Well, are we talking about the exec or the administrator?
The exec.
the exec?
It's in
Yes.
I
here.
think it's
So
a
it has
Yeah.
to be for a year.
year,
For a
isn't it?
year.
Something like that.
How long?
A year,
Just
I
a
think.
year.
So do they only have to own property here, or they have to physically live
Now,
there?
this
Well-
one says 2 years. 2 years.
Okay,
It's
2
on
years.
page 14, 405A.
Okay.
There's never a requirement,
Just have to be
there's never a
resident.
requirement that someone has to own property in a jurisdiction. For all elected officials, they have to be a registered voter in the jurisdiction. And then there can be residency requirements beyond that. That's for the county exec.
County exec.
Okay, we were talking about requiring the county administrator and the county attorney, if they didn't live here, within 6 months after being appointed, that they move here.
That's true.
Okay, so,
Just to kind of play devil's advocate
Well, you know.
on this. Take planning and growth management, or whatever the name of it is now, zone, I don't know what it is, the department.
So,
Is it planning and growth management or whatever?
It is, yep.
As a resident in the county and a property owner in the county, I think I'd want that department head to be living here, because you could get somebody, I mean, they have a lot to say about comprehensive plans, for example, and where the direction of the county goes, and all of that. And, you know, I think it would get me a little bit sideways if I watched on television for a year somebody driving an agenda in one direction but lived in a county somewhere else and is not going to abide by the same rules and regulations that his administration or part of his group is pushing. So that's why I think personally I'd like to see them have skin in the game. And, you know, if you want to make it a year because of schools or kids transferring, and then those issues pop up for all of us. So if you're bringing
How many
people in.
It's what we don't know is how many department heads are they? And I realize executive could change it, but how many there are and what are their
It's
titles?
7. It's 7 departments.
Because, you know, planning, that may make good sense for
It makes
planning,
sense.
but I don't know if, you
Right,
know,
I understand.
the
Right.
HR or the
For
administration
communications,
or.
or-
Currently all live in the county.
Yeah, I think they
There
do.
are a couple who came from other places and moved in the county after a period of time.
Right.
Including our county administrator. But they all live here now.
Was there a time frame that they had to
I don't know if there was, but they all moved within
the first year?
6 months or a year, yeah. I'd say within 6 months.
and politically, the council people or the executive can't fill the county positions up with, well, carpetbaggers without getting some sort of negative reaction from the citizenry. And I would think that all those, they all serve at the pleasure of the county, in this case, the county executive, so that if they're out of step with that elected official, I would expect them to be gone. But, you know, there's something to be said both ways,
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
okay?
I agree.
So,
I think it goes back to what Dante said, let's kick the can down the...
I would argue that both points that both Matt made and Van made are valid. My concern would be going back to something we said very early on. Keep it super simple. So here's yet another thing that if there's a deviation from how it's currently done, then why are we creating that deviation as opposed to letting it, whatever has been in place, stay in place, and if there's a need that arises, we have the ability to change it. I respect the idea of skin in the game, but, you know, I speak from personal experience. I was brought to the county and decided to move to the county, but there was no requirement to do that, but it just made sense. It makes sense at certain levels of position. Well, you'll do that.
Right.
I guess I
Do
would
we
have
know what it is now, though? I mean,
It's not
is-
required.
They're required to, aren't they?
No.
Is there a
They
requirement?
just did it.
Okay,
Or is there just an
Currently, they all live
expectation?
here.
Right.
There have been a couple that I know of who have moved here from other places, including our county administrator. Previously, PGM, the director up there, did not live in the county, previous one before this one, at all, never moved here. So I don't think they're.
So it's not, that's what I just
It's
want to
not
make
a
sure. It's not,
requirement.
It's not a
under
requirement
their,
currently.
under them, they don't have a
They
requirement.
did it because.
We'll take
it
it under
makes
advisement. I
Yeah.
don't think so, but I'll check.
We
Okay,
need to
that'd be
check.
great.
Okay.
That'd be great.
I
All
guess
right.
my concern would be making this a condition of charter, and it wouldn't give any flexibility to the county executive who's trying to fill the position. You know, the county executive, even if we don't have it in the charter, could certainly, and maybe even advisedly, make it a condition of an employment when they're searching for a department head that, that they have to live in the county.
So,
Yeah, but this removes any flexibility in that regard.
okay, so do we want to just sort of take the position that we're going to leave it at the status quo? Adam will find out
Right.
what the status quo is.
Right.
And we'll just go with what
That's
the
fine.
status quo
That's
is.
fine.
We all good with that?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, that was,
Mr. Chairman, just quickly, before we get started on that, can I just make a motion or suggest that we incorporate a table of contents for our charter, just like they have in Cecil County, so that he can,
Sure.
to keep things simple? But we don't have
Sure.
a table of contents in the Frederick one.
Yeah, they didn't want one there, but I
Right.
usually pop one in there.
Right,
Somebody
so-
wants one.
At the
Okay.
end,
Well-
kind of
Yeah, you're sort of at the end because it keeps moving around.
Yeah, but can we have a table of contents?
you think you can work that up for us? Okay,
Yep. Okay.
great.
Word will do that for you.
Oh, good, no problem.
Okay, then. Adam, was there one other thing that we were going to talk about that we were waiting?
No, that was.
That was it? Okay, great.
There we go.
Okay, then. The Article 6, Land Use, 601. We'll go through this, and then I'm going to ask Victor to explain why this is in here. And I said to Victor that I see we want this charter to be neutral in terms of not tipping the scale one way or the other with regard to what the current political balance is between. And for land use, I'm just going to broadly characterize it as environmentalists and developers. I know there are distinctions to be made, but those are two sort of general positions. Okay, 601, adoption of land use article of the Annotated Code of Maryland. A, it is the policy of Frederick County that the provisions of the land use article of the Annotated Code of Maryland that governed land use in the county prior to the effective date of this charter shall continue to apply as if they had been codified in the Code of Public Local Laws of Frederick County on the effective date of the charter. Okay. B, by 2016, the provisions that were considered applicable to the county on the effective date of the charter shall be codified in the Code of Public Local Laws of Frederick County. I'll run through the rest of it. C, it is the policy of Frederick County that whenever the provisions of the land use article are revised by the Maryland General Assembly, and the revisions would, in the absence of the adoption of this charter, impact and affect land use in the county, the revised provisions are to be promptly adopted by the county and codified in the Code of Public Local Laws of Frederick County. D, subsections A, B, and C of this section shall continue to remain in effect until this section is amended. E, this section is not intended, nor shall it be construed, to prohibit the county from complying with any requirement of state law that conflicts with the provisions of this section. So what does this accomplish?
Yeah.
It just flips it over, right? Whatever
Yeah,
you had.
whatever, I mean,
Yeah.
the intent was to freeze everything the way it's done today in the county in Frederick County. So obviously what the concern was is when you are a charter county, you have more flexibility to plan and zone. It's process. We're not talking about content. The content of your planning and zoning is probably not going to change. It's pretty much going to be the same. But how you go about planning and zoning is a little bit more flexible under a charter form than what you have now. And so what Frederick people were concerned with, they were afraid that the development community would basically revolt at the possibility that the way things have been done forever suddenly would be shifted under the new charter. So to signal that that wasn't going to happen, they put these provisions in saying, look, everything that goes on today will go on tomorrow. And the only way that that can change is if you get a charter amendment that changes this section. Now, all that sounds very reasonable, and it certainly sounded reasonable to them. It's entirely new. That's never happened before. Usually what we say in the charter, let me read you what we typically have in a charter, and this is almost in every charter. I think it probably, if not this language, this concept. We say something like, the provisions of the land use article as they relate to planning and zoning authority stand adopted on the effective date of the charter to the extent they're not repealed by any provision of the charter and shall remain in effect until repealed, amended, or superseded. Which means that when the county wants to change a procedure, they can. But until then,
It doesn't have to be changed by the charter.
it's not changed by the charter. So that's typically what's in it. They thought, the Frederick people thought that was too loose. They said, no, we want to anchor it today. Let's go get a formal charter amendment before we can change anything, as opposed to an ordinance that would normally be able to change the procedure.
So when it says it is the policy of Frederick County that whenever the provisions of the land use article are revised by the Maryland General Assembly, and the revisions would in the absence of the adoption of this charter, so what are they in fact saying?
So what's happening is that, the General Assembly will change the land use provision. So right now, you're governed under the land use article. So every year, the General Assembly fiddles with that land use article. So what this means, that paragraph means, is that when those provisions occur, the Frederick County people are going to go right along with those changes that are going on in state law. They're not going to resist them. They're just going to adopt those things.
And you have to do that, you're supposed to do that anyway.
Well, you have to do that as a code county, but as a
Yeah.
charter county, as I say, you have a little bit more flexibility about whether you have to go. Most of your procedures don't have to be followed. There are certain things that have to be followed, but most of them are pretty flexible after you have a charter form of government. And usually, as I say, usually there is so much concern about land use that whatever changes are done are done very cautiously, and usually piecemeal. Every once in a while, in the past, there have been commissions established to study, how we might want to do it in the future compared to how we're doing it now. So there's all sorts of variations, options about how you wade into changing the code. But the idea behind a charter is we're not changing anything because we don't have the expertise to change anything. So all we're going to do is one way or another, either we say it in our transition, nothing will be changed until ordinances are changed, or we say it the way Frederick did, nothing will change until the charter is changed.
Which is harder.
Well, let me ask you, let's assume that the General Assembly, and maybe Adam, maybe you know the answer to this or have a different viewpoint on this, the General Assembly passes some sort of change. And without this language being in there, because this language says the county will promptly adopt it, let's say that your council members, a majority of them, didn't want to adopt it. Without this language, then they could, at least some of these state provisions, they could say, well, we're not adopting that.
Right.
Which if Frederick was drafting now, they probably wouldn't put that language in because they're fighting the state on the maps in the rain tax. So I find it fascinating that they put that in there because it would have been about the time that was being talked about.
Let me
right?
tell you,
Right now.
from an attorney standpoint, neither the county attorney or I thought it was a good idea to do that. But for policy reasons, the Frederick guys said, no, we're going to do this. And they got everybody to agree with it. So, from a legal perspective, it's not so good. We want a little bit more flexibility. From a political perspective, you have to sort of evaluate that for yourself.
Well, let me, just before I get there, I asked you about a month and a half ago to sort of, you agreed to summarize.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Wills. I meant, I was starting to do that, and I got sidetracked.
Okay, so you didn't have a
Yeah,
chance to do it.
But I will do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You wanna what summarized?
He wanted to, go ahead and articulate what would you.
No, I just wanted to know, charter governments are not required to adhere to all of the provisions of 66B, the land use article. And I just wanted to know which ones, which provisions, what provisions are they? And, what effect do they have? Do they give us more flexibility? Do they give us more freedom to plan? Do they, that's all I want to know.
What I'm going to do is, because it's so vast, I will just sort of.
I don't want you to make a big deal about it. I just want a little summary.
An
Right.
idea of what the big issues are and what you're going to have freedom to
Yeah.
do as opposed to what you
Right.
won't have. Yeah.
That's all I want.
Yeah.
Now, can you read, I'm sorry, can you read that, go ahead. Go
No,
ahead,
I
I'm
was saying
sorry.
that would be.
Can you
very
just read
helpful.
the other version,
The
the simple one again?
The simple one.
Yeah.
I like the simple one.
I kind of like it, too.
Easy one.
I'll go slowly. I'll
Yeah.
go slowly so we can sort of digest it. And this is in the transition section, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it appears, and what we're saying in the transition just before this paragraph is saying, look, all the laws that you have today will be in effect tomorrow
Okay.
unless the charter somehow changes those laws. So that's paragraph A. Paragraph B, and this is the language. The provisions of the land use article of the annotated Code of Maryland, as they relate to planning and zoning authority, stand adopted at the effective date of the charter to the extent that they are not repealed by the provisions of this charter and shall remain in effect until repealed, amended, or superseded.
So that just means that they're going to follow the state law on land use, right? That's all that means.
Until,
But-
as the chairman said, they decide that, the state's going one way, and your council and your executive, if you have one, are saying, no, we're not going to follow that. So until repealed, everything is the way it is today.
Yeah. But it seems to me that a bigger issue is the perception that maybe the decisions that we've made under the commissioner form of government, the decisions, the procedures, and all that stuff are going to change instantly when we become a charter. And it seems to me what we're saying is no. All of that stuff is going to stay the same until the council, by ordinance or whatever, changes it using the regular procedure. So things are going to stay the same, and we're going to follow the state law. If the state changes the law, we're going to adopt that law. Is that basically what we're saying?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Don't know?
I don't know. And we've seen in the paper that there's a conflict. Dante may be able to address this better than any of us as far as real estate goes. Maybe not. And there's a conflict now with regard to a plan, the overall comprehensive plan for the county, in that there's been a proposed plan proposed by the county that state officials have criticized as being inadequate or inappropriate in one way or another. And it seems to me that of all the things that we've talked about, that is in this charter, that is the one item where there are two pretty clear sides here in the county. And if we want to make sure that the charter doesn't tip a little bit this way or a little bit that way, if I
think
don't
both
quite
of
have a
them,
handle
both of
on
them
it.
say we're going with the status quo.
they do. And one of them makes it.
Whatever rules are in place, they're still in place. So this one just makes it, in the future, harder to change rules. You have to change them by charter instead of ordinance. And I think what we're saying with the simplification thing is do it through the ordinance and take the laurels or the consequences from it, instead of having to come back and vote it through with the charter. Because, you could have something good or something bad that people want to change. And
Am I worried about nothing, Adam?
Well, I mean, I would,
Big.
I would say that land use is a very complicated legal topic, and that even if you took the rest of your time here to study that topic, you still might not have all the expertise required to make these kinds of determinations that were necessary.
I have to say, I deal with land use on a daily basis from the legal end, and I can
Well,
tell
what
you,
is Adam saying about us? I love it.
and I can tell you that Adam's just right. It's a very complicated subject, and really, what we're talking about here now, just to put it on the table, these are procedures.
Right.
You know, it's not your substance that's going to change. It's just how you go about making your plan, your zoning. You know how that goes. Make a conditional use, a variance. Those are the types of things that you will have more flexibility of. Right now, the state tells you how you go about doing a conditional use, a variance. They talk about those procedures. You will have more flexibility about how you address those. What things go to your planning commission versus what things go to your county council to decide. You'll have more flexibility about where those are parsed out.
That's the part that I don't understand Frederick doing what they did. Because if you want to go to charter and you want more flexibility locally, then I would think you'd want the broad language.
Not this.
You wouldn't want what they have up there.
Especially Section C.
Right.
I mean, they're in the middle along with Carroll County on this whole rain tax issue because they came out with a flat penny, and now the state is saying you're $18 million under. And that's a perfect example where.
Except the rain tax is not a zoning issue.
Okay, but let's say it was a zone, right, like tier maps or whatever. I'm making an assumption that that's going to be the same type of scenario. I don't know why you'd want to do that.
I think we're in agreement.
I mean, I think
We want the charter to be neutral on what's going on in terms of land
Let that
use.
be-
and
y'all agree.
maintain the flexibility that the charter gives you,
Yeah.
right,
Right.
going forward.
Right, exactly.
Why tie yourself up on it?
So if that's the consensus, then do we take
Just take it
Article 6 out completely, or just
substitute.
take out B and C, or?
Change it to that.
Or
other-
we substitute that
with the
other
Well,
language you
I
read.
would, if it were me, I'd take the whole thing. I mean, I'd
Right.
take it out. I mean, and we'll just, when the time comes, we'll address it in the transition about
Right.
how you want to deal with it.
Yeah.
If you want to go something similar to what I've read, we can do that.
So the header will be.
We'll just take it out. There will be no Article 6.
Right.
Okay.
And we'll flip it in the transition section.
We'll worry about it again in the transition
Transition section,
section.
okay.
So this, like any other rules, whatever, would be taken care of by the same wording, right? Not only land use, this would apply to other things, like what's in
Right.
effect now stays. in
Well,
effect.
exactly.
Local
That
ordinances,
provision will be in the, and you'll see it. It's
Right.
pretty much the way I said it is, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to share something. It might be related, or it might not. But there is a lot of arguments that I heard lately from Charles County citizens that they don't want more houses to build in here. And the official elected, the answer is being already plans for the past 30, 40 years. San Charles Company, whatever, they own so much land.
Who's that company?
and they can build as many houses as they need. And the government of Charles County cannot stop them. Because they got to pay, so they got to pay that company so much money because they're going to lose so much profit. That's what I hear. I got no idea. But so I don't know if it's related to this or not, but a lot of Charles County citizens are very concerned about that because that's going to make the traffic even worse and everything else going to be worse. So I just going to share that with you guys.
This is a very fascinating topic that could take many, many sessions. I want to start by saying this certainly should not be an issue that should be politicized or weaponized by any side of the argument. There's this little thing in this country called supply and demand that drives housing, as an example. So the houses are being built because people want them, not because greedy developers are just throwing up houses and expecting people to live there. So when you have situations where you have recorded lots and such, that doesn't mean that they'll be built until there's a demand for them to be built. And what this argument that some people are bantering around seems to negate is that the people who buy existing homes have, for example, children who attend schools and help drive the population or what is perceived to be overcrowding in schools up. So, if we want to have a fact-based discussion on this issue, I would certainly hope that it doesn't happen in this room, first of all, because it's
Right.
not really a charter issue.
Right, yeah.
Not at
Thank
all.
you, thank
But
you.
we need to just make sure that we stay as far away from that whole situation, because it's land use, growth, and overcrowding are so complex, are such complex issues that we can't reduce them to bumper stickers and flashpoint sayings that get people's emotions stirred. So we should probably stay far away from that.
Well, and let's remember that the county, there's this, what some people refer to as smart growth, where you're trying to concentrate building in some areas and preserving environmentally sensitive areas. The county has entered into an agreement with St. Charles. Is it Article 90?
I thought we said
There's some sort of number to it.
It's a docket 90.
Docket 90, excuse me. And St. Charles will extend, for those of you who've driven down St. Charles will extend all the way down
To the
to the edge of La Plata, and will be higher density than the rest of the county. And that is, that's a done deal. That's not going to change. What sort of development there is outside of St. Charles is what the arguments are about. And I do think, as far as people being upset on both sides, that's where the discussions become most heated. And that's why I want to be sure that what we're doing here with the land use, taking this out, leaves both parties in the same footing that they were in before we got started on this, so that neither side feels that, oh, this proposed charter will give us the upper hand, or we'll put the other side at an advantage on that. And then it'll just be for the elected officials who get elected to sort this out. But there have been some problems between the state officials and county officials with regard to the tiers that they're talking, that is, the levels of development of different land. We don't need to know. We don't need to know everything about it to know that it's a hornet's nest.
Politics at its finest.
And
That's
we
all.
don't have to address that in this chart.
No, we just flip it over, whatever.
And we don't want to inadvertently address it.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Fair
So
enough.
I just want to make sure, what are you going to do on that now? You going to, the substitute piece, we're just going to,
That's going to show up in our next.
Oh, in the transitional part, okay.
Just
right.
taking this out,
Okay.
taking out 601.
okay, all right,
There's no section 6.
There won't be an
land
Article
use.
6.
okay.
There'll be miscellaneous.
Right. Article 6 will be miscellaneous. Okay. And speaking of the new Article 6, miscellaneous, 701, charter amendments. This charter may be amended by the procedures provided in Article 11A of the Maryland Constitution. Well,
Does anybody want to know what that is?
Yep.
Okay. Two ways to amend your charter, okay? One is from the top down. The county council can pass a resolution adopting a charter change. Then it goes to the voters, and the voters either accept it or reject it. Accept it, then obviously the charter's changed. The other way is from the bottom up, and you get a petition signed by, I think, 10,000 voters now. And if we have a broad-based petition from the voters saying we want to change the charter in a certain way, they go out and solicit the petitions. If they have enough signatures on the ballot on the petition, then by law the county council has to schedule the vote on the charter change. It could be at a special election. Usually it's at the next general election. And then that's how your charter is changed. So that's what 11A says. There's no local control over how we go about amending the charter. It's all done by the Constitution. So that's why it's in here. We don't put all the details
All
in
about that
because
procedure.
that really doesn't change every once in a while, but every once in a while. It's changed once in the last 30 years, I guess.
What do they want to change?
They changed, I think they may have changed the number, the percentage. I can't exactly remember what it was, but it was something rather significant. But the state is very much on top of it. This is all state controlled. Yeah.
Okay. So if that, even if that wasn't in here, that would be the way it gets changed, because the Maryland Constitution says that's the way it gets changed. Okay. 702, is this going to be in the same boat? That is,
There's actually nothing in the state about this. This is your own little local provision. This was how it would work out, probably the way if you terminated a charter. This is probably how it would
okay.
be done.
702, termination of charter. This charter may be terminated and the county return to the county commissioner form of government.
Well, that's
Well,
not
we
you
could,
guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
To the form of government in effect prior to the adoption of this charter, using the same procedures provided in Section 701 of this charter.
Charter amendment.
B, 30 days following the approval by the voters to
Mr. Chairman, are
terminate.
we going to wait till you go all the way through, or we going section by section with comments? I just want to know. I don't mind you going all the way through it. I just want to know how we're going to do it.
I didn't see too much to A, so I was going to go ahead and do B as well. 30 days following the approval by the voters to terminate this charter, the charter shall stand terminated. Council members then in office shall become Board of County Commissioners for the county and shall remain in office until their successors are qualified for office. And then I'll read the last one as well. All laws, ordinances, and regulations in effect at the termination of this charter shall remain in force until changed by the action of the General Assembly or the Board of County Commissioners as provided by the Constitution of Maryland and the public general laws of this state.
Now, I have one comment. It was something that I think Ernie pointed out. During this termination process, is it not also an option, if people want to go back, not just go back to the code form of government, but go back to the commissioner form of government? Is that an option for people, and should it be?
Well, let's see. Let me tell you, Mr. Wills, that it's never happened. So the question you're asking is, well, don't really know. What we're going to do in the charter, if you put it in the charter of what you're going to go back to, that's probably what you would go back to. So it's probably, we're probably establishing what you would go back to.
Because then you're just returning all the power over to the state. If you went back to the
Well, no, you
to
could.
the original form of government, the commissioner form of government.
Well, it's not all the
More-
power to the
not
state.
all the power, but
Right.
more power to the state and less to the county.
Yes, you
Right.
won't have home rule if you jump
Right.
it back to commissioner form.
Right, but at the same time, just to argue this a little bit, is that we were originally commissioner form of government, and people had that for a long time, and then they said, we want to go to code, and then they say we want to go to charter. So the logic is, the people should have a right to go back to commissioner if they wish, because if you go to code, all you have to do is to create an ordinance to say we want to go back to commissioner. So
Well, you're raising an interesting point. The way you go to any of these forms of government is established in the Constitution. So, when you go back to something, the question is, okay, is that lawful? Can you do that? Because the Constitution tells us how we go to code home rule. We're not saying that we're not putting that in here. We're just going it back. That's why I'm saying it's a totally new ballgame. I would say we put it in here, whatever you guys think would be the best thing to do, which, whatever that would be, and we'll let it ride, and at that time, we'll just...
I don't mind it the way it is. That was just a point that Ernie had brought up, and I just wanted to get some feedback on it. That's all.
Yeah, it's a really interesting legal question that no one knows the answer to, and I probably am the best informed person to be telling you about what probably would happen. So I'm thinking, if you think about wanting to go back to code home rule, that's probably what we put. If you're thinking about going to commissioner county, I don't think anybody in the state would ever doubt that you could go back to the commissioner form of government.
Okay, all right.
Okay, for purposes of this, we'll say back to code,
Code, right.
okay? Are we going to leave this provision in? Do we need to have a provision? This way we can tell people, look, if it doesn't work out,
Exactly.
you can go back,
Exactly.
Choice.
okay? Everybody good with that?
That's really key. That's very key. When they vote as well, it's in here.
Everybody good with that then? Okay.
In other words, if you like your termination procedures, you can keep your termination procedures. I've heard that somewhere.
Okay. Change the code. Change
That was
code.
So
bad.
if you
Okay.
had the county executive, how would that,
He's unemployed.
That individual,
No job.
I mean, it addresses the council, but it doesn't address the
Gonna get fired.
executive.
well, I would say that we have, that is a member, the county executive is part of the governing body. And that individual would be still a member of the governing body if you went back to Code Home Rule. The problem there would be you might have an even number of elected officials, and that would be problematic from a voting angle.
I don't think that's what that says, though.
It doesn't.
You know, it says the council members.
Doesn't address
Isn't
the
the county
executive.
exec, under this wording, county exec's unemployed?
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, why don't we be, let's be explicit. If you say, the county executive's out of office, we'll put that in here. I think that's a great catch.
Thank you.
Okay, is everybody good with adding that? And we'll move on to,
The only question,
Okay,
Just to
go
put
ahead.
it
the wrinkle in
point.
that, if you're reverting back to our current, we have an elected countywide president, elected different than the other commissioners. So then, how are you going to define that role? Are you going to then make a selection out of the council members to be your president of the county
Well,
commissioners? Or would you not say that the county exec automatically reverts to the president of the county commissioners and the council?
then you have an even number?
Have an even number.
I'm just saying.
Right.
Okay.
Well, you have to develop some transition procedures.
Well,
You could say that the president doesn't vote. I mean,
Well, let me ask this. If the citizenry decided that they didn't
Chair.
like,
they're telling a clear message.
if they're deciding they don't like charter government, isn't it time for the county exec to take a walk?
I would agree.
Yeah, but
I
be the
mean,
council too then.
well,
I mean, if you're going to all this cost and time to revert
Yeah.
it back, I think you want to throw everybody out.
Yeah, probably, but let me say one thing. You know, I think we'll probably eventually come up with procedures about how the head of the commissioners or the council is chosen. And I think in this, we could say that stays the same. You just lose the county exec.
Well, if we had nothing but
And the appointees, his top deputies or something, because her top deputies,
if we had nothing but the language here,
Yeah.
it goes right back to what you had. I mean, so everything would revert. So the way it's operating today would be the way it would operate then.
well,
yeah, but your
if-
election wasn't for a president.
But that's okay. I mean, you still get, so you have an issue about who's the president at that point. Is that right? I mean, is that the
That's
only
what
thing?
we're doing.
And if that's the only thing, I mean, that's small.
work
I mean,
out.
that's small beans. I mean, they can figure that out themselves.
Well, right, let's say, right.
3-3.
That's really, I guess that's really, that's really.
That's close.
But right now, you have a full-time president and part-time commissioners.
You hadn't been in Charles County much.
And where we're going looks like it's all part-time, you know, so there's no one that's,
No, I mean,
so it's not, I mean, there are some significant changes that involve.
Well, but I mean, what is, I
personnel.
mean, well, I don't want to get into, because I don't know anything, but we can't get into details here
Right.
because we're just,
Yeah.
I agree.
now, let me just ask you one other question.
The likelihood.
There's another option too, and I'm trying to figure out whether it be through the amendment process. If they decide that they don't like the council elected executive form of government and they want to go to the council administrator, appointed administrative form of government, how would they?
charter change.
They would have to go through the amendment process.
Right.
Okay. So that's another option for them. We can terminate
I
and
mean,
go
you can play
back.
the
or-
charter any way you
Right.
feel like doing it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now, as far as the changes to 702, we're going to change the language so that it says it would revert back to code.
Code, right.
Okay. Are we going to put in a sentence about the county executive? I think we were going to, but then we talked about it some. Are we still going that way? Paul, I see you nodding your head affirmatively.
You do. I mean, it's just clear then, you know.
Okay, is that the general consensus?
That he or she's terminated,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the consensus. Okay, Victor, you want to put that sentence in there for us? Okay. Let's see if we can do 703.
Yeah. Let's see.
703. A Charter Review Commission shall be appointed by the council no later than 6 months following the installation of newly elected council members after the election of 2018. We could put it farther off, obviously. A Charter Review Commission may be appointed at such other times as the council, in its discretion, may determine, but at least once every 10 years, beginning in 2018. The Charter Review Commission shall be composed of 7 registered voters of the county, including at least 1 member from each council district established pursuant to Section 204 of this charter. No person shall be eligible for appointment to the commission who holds elective office. The chair of the commission shall be elected from and by the members of the commission. Okay, let's see what they do. B, the commission shall review the provisions of this charter and make recommendations as to the necessity for deleting, adding, or amending its contents. The commission shall receive an appropriation sufficient to carry out its duties and responsibilities. The members of the commission may not be entitled to compensation, but shall be entitled to reimbursement for reasonable expenses. C, except as provided in subsection D of this section, the commission shall make its report to the council at a public hearing within 12 months following its creation. D, the commission may be required to report to the council earlier than the deadline established in subsection C of this section if the council establishes the report deadline at the time the commission is created. And F, upon delivery of the commission report, the commission shall be deemed dissolved and its work terminated. Any comment?
My only thing, when you're choosing a date, make sure you pick it in the odd 2-year cycle.
Gubernatorial cycle?
No. So the presidential cycle.
In the presidential
so
cycle?
We get it away from an election process, right? So we don't have the report coming due during an election.
During state and local elections.
Right.
Charter
So that they don't play any games with it. I mean, I think
Okay.
it'd be better for the review.
Okay, well then let's think,
So
is everybody good with that?
When you pick it, I'm just saying.
Let's see, there, we had
wouldn't
212,
get
216,
politicized.
220.
But is that something that we could handle in the transition section also?
No.
No, we got to put it in here.
Yeah, no, this should be something, if you're going to, you don't have to put a Charter Review Commission in. I just wanted to point out that, understand, this says every 10 years, at least every 10 years, but it also has language, you can appoint a Charter Review Commission anytime you feel like it. This one has, they wanted, on the other hand, I also wanted to point out the fact, the very first sentence says, when that first Charter Review Commission, they didn't want to wait 10 years. So essentially, when they set up the charter, they said, well, we don't want to wait 10 years from the time we've done it because maybe people are
Right.
unhappy with
Right.
it. So
No,
let's
I-
kick something early, and that's what that first
Right.
number is about.
Right.
2016 then?
So if we were to say that say it passed and went in effect, the effective date for our charter would be, what we've been talking about would be what?
2016 for ours.
Right?
So you're saying
So then
2020.
you would want it,
2018?
18.
That's a non-presidential year. 2018 is a non-presidential year. It's a gubernatorial year.
right, so you'd go 20, which would be 4 years,
Wait a minute now.
right?
No.
You wanted to have it,
On a
okay,
presidential.
the gubernatorial years are 14, 18,
18.
22.
Right, so 20.
You want it that far out?
Well, it's only 4
That's
years.
4 years.
And we're saying
Yeah.
10.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think 2 years is too soon, man.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. 2020?
4, and then after that, it would go to the
It can
the
go as
language
much
in
as
here,
10
which
after
is
that.
'Cause
at least within 10 years.
Yeah, and think about it, it's almost, I'm thinking of the census.
Well, that's
Is
a
there
different kettle,
impact?
that's
Yeah.
sort of a different kettle of fish. I mean, it's so census, show up in 2020.
Yeah, but you won't get results. till-
Effective in 2022.
Yeah.
Now, when you say 2018, I mean, Are you saying
They said 2000.
that?
They put that forward.
That's Frederick.
But we want it completed in 2018, right?
No.
The commission, for them to do their work and submit their report in 2018, right?
20.
No, I thought we just,
No, I guess if you vote your charter in
On
this year, in
2014,
2014, your real start date is 2016, as I
Right,
understand what the
2016,
thing is.
right.
So what they're trying to do is push it off 4 years.
oh, they want to push it up 4 years?
Right.
Okay, all right, so it'd be 20.
Okay, so they'd be appointed in 2020. Everybody good with that?
And then the 7, is that just a question mark right now? Or no?
We're,
Are the 7
oh,
members?
okay.
I'm asking. Okay.
Should be an odd number. That's all I,
Just say 7 to 9.
But they,
Well, the 7 came out because they were part of they had 7 districts up there, so. 7 registered. Did they have 7 districts? Actually, they don't have 7 districts. We reduced that, so. But anyways, they have seven individuals. It's your call, whatever
Yeah, I
number
was
you
just asking.
get
I don't
comfortable
have a
with.
problem.
where is it?
Then it says
Seven's more than enough.
7's a good number?
What's the 7? Where are we on this?
and then the second part
It's in the
has
7 members
Part
to
A.
the
Oh,
commission.
for the commission, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still want to make sure that I understand what's going on here. Okay, I can see people saying, let's give it 4 years and let's review, but do we want to establish the commission on December 25th of 2020?
They
Or do we
could.
want, we want the report back in 2020, right?
I think the report is right.
You know what I mean?
Well, it would be, the way this would be written, its chances are it would probably be 2021 by the time you got the report back.
That
Okay,
was
so
it.
just to have it established in 2000.
20.
20.
Yeah, then if
20.
they came up with something that
They
would
have
be
to within
okay
6
for
months.
election in 2022.
But I guess this is my point, is that do we want the results back in 2020? If we do, then we have to make sure that the commission gets appointed in the
2019.
early half of 20. But if we don't want it until 2/21, then,
I don't
that's
think
fine.
you don't want it till 21 because you're not going to be in a position to do anything about it till 2022 because that's when you vote again. So you want it just you can have it sitting on the
that-
table.
That's raising, you don't want the vote in 22 because that's a state year,
Mm-hmm.
right? You'd want the vote in 20 or 24,
Well,
if there's any amendments to make, because you're trying to remove it from the state process.
Yeah, it makes sense.
if you were trying to move it, you'd want it whenever you deemed was necessary. You wouldn't want to be locked into.
I guess what I'm saying is, when do we want the results from the
Should be
from the
2020,
county, the results,
2021.
the report?
So
That's
you
what
want to, you want to find out, so 2020, the Charter Review Commission will be established. After it's established, what is the length of time? Do they have a certain length of time?
I just want to know what year
The report
is the
should be,
report supposed to be completed and given to the council? That's all that.
Does that need to be a part of the charter, though? Or does it?
It
does
just
that
says they
normally
have to
happen?
do it within a year.
What's that? It has to be so that you really won't be able to control that.
Won't be able to
Right.
control it.
Because you can put it in early,
You just
or
control.
you can go right to the end of that year term.
Right, that-
And it
yeah.
could kick you over to the next year
Right.
or not.
Right,
So-
you're just controlling, say, in 6 months, that the council's got to appoint it.
Within 6 months. But
Okay.
there's still no end date for them to,
Well,
is there an
a year.
end date for them to complete their work? That's all.
Yeah,
Well,
there
there
would
was
be.
total of 18 months, right?
Yeah.
You
Within
got 6
18
months,
oh,
and then 12.
You said within 18 months?
6 and
That's the way I
12.
read it, but-
Yeah, 6 and
6 and
12,
12.
18 months.
Section C.
It'd have to be done by June
Okay.
30th of
Okay.
2021.
It would be done before the 20.
Okay.
June 30th of 2021.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so everybody,
Maybe I don't understand your concern, man. Is your concern that?
I don't
the
want it
provisions will
being
be on-
named the year of the gubernatorial election.
You don't want to be named.
Then it's politicized.
You're not concerned about any provisions that come out
I'm
that
not-
may not be
no.
voted on.
I
being
just
part
want
of
to
the
keep it
state
away
election.
from the politics
And I
side of it.
misunderstood your concern.
Yeah, no, I just want to keep it away from the politics side of it.
How do you do that?
Well, we
By
were.
backing this up. I mean, you know, as much as you can. As
I don't
much
know
as
that
you
we
can.
were that
you
political
know.
when they chose us.
I'm
You're not
sorry,
gonna get
I
away with
misunderstood your concern.
Okay.
Not me.
okay. Okay, then anybody have any other issues with regard to 703? Okay. Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break.
Why don't we just do 704?
Yeah,
Okay.
I like 704.
We want to do 704?
Finish it
Okay.
all.
704, independent auditor.
Finish it all.
The council shall engage a certified public accountant to make annually an independent post-audit of all financial records and actions of the government, its officers, agents, and employees. The complete report of the audit shall be presented to the council and executive, and copies of the complete report, including addenda, corrections to the report, and all correspondence relating to the audit shall be available to the public at a cost not to exceed the cost of reproduction.
That's good.
I like that.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Any issues with regard to that? Not seeing any issues around the table? Okay, 704. Next is article.
We're going to take our break now.
We're
It's
almost
gone.
done with the whole thing. Page 24, then 25. Mr. Wills, we're almost done. Follow us. Let's go.
Okay, is there a general consensus? We'll go on a little bit here.
Does this mean we're going to finish this, we have the possibility of finishing
Let's-
this
let's-
tonight? Or not?
Come back soon, Mr. Wills. Come back soon.
We take a 2-minute break,
Mr. Wills, go to the.
1-minute break.
No.
Let's go ahead and take a break. Let's take a break. Let's take a. It's just a privilege. Just a privilege.
Mr. Wills, did you missed Mr. Collins in action last week?
Oh, yeah.
All night, anybody?
Nobody.
Nobody?
Thursday night.
Oh, nobody. Okay.
Okay.
I'm still.
You feel better?
You feel better.
Yes, I do.
Very good.
Okay. Article 8, which we all know is going to be Article 7, we're ready to go now. Okay. Article 8, which will be Article 7 after our amendments, is transitional provisions. 801, nature of this article. The provisions of this article relate to the transition from the commissioner form of government to the form of government provided by this charter. Whenever the provisions of this article are inconsistent with the previous provisions of this charter, the provisions of this article shall control. 802. Time certain articles become effective. Except as expressly provided in this article, the provisions of this charter shall become operative on the date the first county executive and county council elected pursuant to this charter take office, which will be, we would put the first Monday in
2016?
in 2016. Okay. 803, first election. In order to provide for the election of the first executive in November 2016, Section 403, election of the county executive, Section 404, term of the county executive, and Section 405, qualifications of the county executive, shall take effect on
That would be 2015, January 1, 2015.
Everything changed about 2
Okay. Why do those?
Because you have to, when somebody's going to run for office, you have to tee it up.
Right.
And so that's what we're doing here.
Okay. Thank you. That's. I guess I should say duh. Okay. B. In order to provide for the election of the first members of the council in November 2016, Section 204, election, Section 205, qualifications, and Section 206, term of office, shall take effect on January 1st, 2015. Okay. Any question about, it just seems like procedure.
Well, it's procedure, all right, and we got to get clear on the procedure, because right now, what we're talking about, and I'm not clear that we have an agreement on it, is how we're going to transition. We're going to have an election in 2014 where we hopefully will get the charter approved. Now, from what I see, it seems like that there's a consensus that first election for the county executive be in 2016. Now, originally I had thought that that would be a 2-year term, and then they would run in 2018, and then you would continue every 4 years. But I think people have indicated that they want the county executive to be elected in 2016, and then every 4 years from 2016, which would put it on an odd election from the council.
No, that can't happen.
That can't happen, okay. So then, but I guess my question is that the scenario that we want for first of all, for the county executive? 2016, and then when is the next election for the 2020?
It has to be, remember we had this discussion about the other county that allows off non-gubernatorial years. It has to be in the gubernatorial years. So it would be 2018, and then 2022, 2026.
So then that first term is going to be a 2-year term. Okay,
him.
that's what I'm thinking.
For her.
Okay, so first election 2016 for 2 years, and then in 2018 you'll get into the 4-year cycle.
Correct.
Now, as far as the council is concerned, my original thought was to minimize interruptions and everything was to simply have the commissioners elected in 2014 just simply become rollover to county councilors in 2016, and keep their pay too, and then in 2018 they'll run for re-election along with the county executive, right?
And that works if we stay with 5, or even if we wanted to say, if we were going to go from 5 to 7, if we postpone that until 2018 to make the jump up, we could have the rollover till then. And let me say, I thought about this, and some of these people are going to go through a lot of heartache to get elected, and of course I guess on the one hand they could know that in 2 years they'd be out, and then on the other hand you could say, well, why not leave them in for 4?
Right. Well, because the citizens elected them for 4, when they elected them. But I guess my problem is can we just plot this out and jot this up so we all know exactly what these timelines are that we're looking for? Because this will answer some other questions in the charter too.
You want to go to the whiteboard?
You good at that, Paula? Why don't you? You know what? Come on, please. So if we can get that tied down, it'll help with a lot of questions that we have.
Well, let's ask what do we want to do? Do we want to? What's the general feeling? Do we want to say that if they've been elected, we'll let the commissioners / council people, we'll let them sit for 4 years, or do we want to say we're going to make them run again in 2?
But if they are elected on 2016 and they roll over to council members, they're going to be on the government for 4 years, right?
Well, if they're elected in 2014, the people who were elected in 2014
are going to be the same people.
The question is, do we make them run again in 2016, or do we say, okay, you get a pass until 2018?
Yeah, they just roll over to council members.
Let's say we give them the pass and say this is 4 years. Now we have all these procedures, roles, whatever we want to call them, about who's the president, how they overturn things, all that. Do they have to change the process? Like, because in 2014 somebody was elected the president. Or do we not start that until 18?
Let me
We
the
cannot
way
change anything.
the way it would work. Let's suppose we're just putting in so we're rolling over the commissioners.
Yeah.
Okay. The way it would work, and the charter takes effect in 2016.
Right.
So whatever we're saying here is what's going to guide them at that point. So if we're saying the president, well, I know we've actually put a hold on that question, how the president is going to be elected. But if we say the president's going to be elected at that point by the majority of the council people sitting around then even if this person was elected by some other majority, doesn't matter, because we're saying not that person, whoever's going to be president is going to be elected by the council themselves.
And if it was going to go from not full-time to part-time and all that?
All that kicks right in.
And of course, we could say all those things just roll over, and we don't change the way the president of the council is picked until after the 2018.
Right. I mean, we could say, I mean, we have the flexibility to say that in the rollover, the council, the commissioner president would become the council president.
Except
we-
he
They now
or
have
she
a-
might
they
have
have a
made a
half-time
choice to run
job.
for county exec.
Right.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then you follow whatever procedures you do for replacements, and then people will vote.
Or you, yeah, right, and
Yeah.
or you could just say whoever's the remaining rollovers, they elect a
Right.
person
President.
Yeah,
Because you're gonna
amongst
go to-
themselves for a year.
right.
You know, so there'll be
Right.
two of them.
You know, let me add, I'm thinking, so when I'm listening to this conversation, I'm thinking, well, if we can have a commissioner run for executive, then in this transition, we probably should figure out how we're going to fill that vacancy. Otherwise, we're going to have an issue.
Right, okay.
We do have a, but we might want to think about, in this circumstance, how you fill that vacancy, because that's what happened in Cecil. Suddenly, there was a vacancy, and suddenly it became an
Didn't
issue.
we already talk about this? Like, we gotta go to the central community to.
Well, that's
say-
we're talking in normal circumstances.
But we can apply it.
Well, I don't know if we want to.
I don't think we
because-
want to either.
Okay, well, why don't we do this, okay? You've mentioned Cecil. I think we all agree that Cecil is an example of what we don't want to happen.
Right.
Okay, so taking it from there, my recollection, and for the viewers who didn't hear the presentation from Cecil, my recollection of what happened was, although the normal process is that a party member replaces a party member, they had somebody switch from either party to independent or switch parties, and it played havoc with things and made everybody upset. And at least as of their presentation, I think they were in court over things. We looked at this earlier in the provisions for substitutions. When we say what's normal and what's not normal, well, politics can be a
Yeah.
tough
I just think
game.
The first time is the first time.
Right, well,
It's the switch over, that's the.
Right.
Yes.
And
So
that would
what
be in
would
the
we do?
transition section.
So what would we do? Let's say that one of the council people runs for county exec. I guess if they lose, they stay on the council.
well, oh, no.
Or you could
Oh,
say.
no,
you
we,
could
no.
Give up your
Vacate your
seat
seat.
if you're
I think
running
that's
for
something
exec.
we
Yeah, you got to give up your
Yeah,
seat.
yeah.
Okay, well, we'll have to,
Right.
okay, we can think about that because
Right.
who was it? There was somebody who ran for, one of the vice presidential candidates held onto a Senate seat.
Yeah, Ryan, the House seat, Ryan held on to his House seat.
There's another, yes.
Right.
I was thinking farther back, but
Yeah.
Ryan's a good
And
example.
he was actually running because you have to run for Congress.
As I listen to this, and if we're going to ask voters to adopt this, and and take the serious step of adopting this, it seems to me that the next logical step is that they get to have an election and elect the county executive and the council. And if you're going to do that, it should be clean by an election. Transition provisions. What happens if if A happens and B and C. It seems to me, as we're talking about, the cleanest way to handle it is determine that there's going to be election in 2016, and those will be 2-year terms until 18, and let the voters have the say. And that makes it clear, as we've talked about, if we want to have adoption of it. I think you said earlier, make it clear, because the more ambiguity there is in the document, the less likely it is going to be to be supported by voters. So I think, to me, the cleanest, easiest way to do this and keep faith with voters who support it is to have an election in 2016.
For the council,
For everybody.
for everybody.
So then you're
everybody?
not running for two things or whatever, yeah.
Right.
Make a good point.
You could also pull it all the way and just say, you vote your charter in 2014, and it takes effect 2018.
We talked about that. I think the general consensus
No.
was that's too far out.
That's too far, right.
It
Right,
loses
right.
momentum.
We rejected
Okay, we
that.
still feel that way?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We can make an exception for 2 years and
Okay.
But-
And the Maryland Constitution says that it's in one of these transitions, that's the only time that we can have
The exception.
the election during a presidential election.
Or anytime, actually. You can call that election anytime you want.
Oh,
So we
yes,
could-
or the
We could do
gubernatorial.
it 1 year, no, actually, we could do it anywhere, anytime you want to do it.
You can do it in 90 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there are a number of things that have to happen, and well,
Yeah.
most notably the drawing of the election districts for the council.
That-
Well,
Yeah,
we
assuming we go
we
back
got to go
to-
back, I can't remember what we did with those council districts. We, actually, we're going to
Even
provide for
assuming if
them.
there's
We were
gonna be
going
election-
Can.
We could, well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and also the election districts are, how we deal with election districts are part of the transition. So,
But even if they're not elected by district,
Right.
well, they're going to be residential districts.
Yeah,
unless
I mean, you
somebody's
could-
elected at large.
Either way.
Right. So
you could keep the same, well, I mean,
There's
all
some-
this is hypothetical. Whatever you guys want to do, we can probably.
Unless everybody's elected at large, it's going to have to be some boundary drawing process.
We could, for example, take the boundaries that you have now, roll them over until we have, for the first election, just roll them over.
Or roll them over until 2020.
Or in 2020, right, exactly.
Correct.
So,
You're not that far away at that point.
it's 2 years.
For us.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Okay, well, let's,
The new
just
census. Yeah.
with regard to one issue, and that is the issue of whether or not we want to have just a clean break in 2016. I mean, we all agree that at least a county executive is going to be elected in 2016.
Right.
We're going to say everybody runs, and we don't worry about whether a council member runs for county
Shut
executive.
up kind of thing.
Right.
Is that the
You wanna write it
consensus?
on the board, so we all.
well,
We can vote.
I could do
I
that.
guess my only, I don't have, I can go along with that. I mean, that's one of the thoughts that I had to just everybody run. But I go back and I think now, the 2014 election, folks are, and they don't know whether the charter is going to pass or not. But people are voting for those people, for those commissioners for 4 years. For 4 years, okay? And that's the reason why I was leaning towards 2016, we roll them over to council people, and then in 2018 that they run. Now, in this charter, we can very easily and legally determine how the president is going to be selected, and we can say that. If there's a vacancy, if the county, if the commissioner president runs for another office, then you just take the majority vote of the remaining people to select the council president. I mean, we can specify how to do that.
No
And it's,
question.
No
question. We could do that.
But that's one way. The other way is that
clean
has merit
sweep.
too. So
Well,
I'm sorry. We'll just keep going clockwise. Dante?
So I'd argue that in 2014, the people are choosing to vote for a commissioner form of government for 4 years and no charter, or voting folks in for 2 years, understanding that a charter election will happen in 2016. So I think that clean way of doing it is a clear delineation between the choices that a voter has in 2014. I'm not voting, if Matt Wills is running in 2014, Matt Wills is running not against the charter, but concurrently with the charter, understanding that it may be a 2-year term if we decide to switch forms of government, or it may be a 4-year term if the charter is voted down. So to me, the cleanest way to do it is to have the 2016 election and then not have us or whatever body have to now create a contingency plan for 15, 16, 18 things that will happen. So, I just throw my support behind the idea of just keeping it as simple and as clean as we possibly can.
Okay, let's ask everybody what their opinion is on this, and then let's see if we can resolve it tonight, okay?
And I'll write it.
You're with what?
Yeah, I agree.
Dante?
I think, in terms of if they voted for the charter, I think, that would under the expectation that there's going to be election in 2016.
Okay.
I agree, and I think, when we go out and talk about this, you'll get if there's a wide disapproval or disagreement, we'll get that feedback.
Okay,
It's
Matt?
not like it's like in ink,
yeah, but
stone.
we can
Okay.
we can get feedback on everything
Yeah.
till we
Yes.
go out there.
Mr. Wells?
Like I said, I don't have a great big problem with that. That's one of the original thoughts I had, just to cut it off clean and go. But I did consider, what I just said. That was a consideration of mine, and I'm just. So I guess if the charter fails, then
4 years.
they just got 4 years as a commissioner, and we keep going, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I will. I don't have any problem going with just cutting it clean and.
Camilla? You're in agreement? Okay. Vladimir?
I'm fine.
Okay. Then we're going to go with,
I just want to make sure I write the details so we can have it really clean. Clean, is that our word? Clear.
cut.
So 2016, a county executive election will take place,
Right.
right?
and commissioner.
And commissioner.
Or council.
Council.
Council people.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just gonna excuse myself. I gotta go, but I just gonna wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Feliz Navidad.
There you go.
See you, man.
Okay. Okay, I think that's a,
I just
take-
want to make sure we get really, really clear. So
It's all pretty-
2016 county exec election as well as the county council member election. In 2016, the charter government goes into effect as well.
Right.
and we're all on board on that.
And in 2018, a full 4-year term.
Right.
Right.
I think
Everybody
that's,
would be up.
Right.
would that be required?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be required
Yeah, so it's all-
by the
it's gonna be-
Constitution.
It's going to be a 2-year
I
term.
want to clean. I just want to help clean it.
I'll give them a chance to try.
Provide that
Yeah.
clarity, so they don't think it's going to happen in 2020.
So did we discuss the part?
'Cause we'll get there.
Right. Somebody will say, oh, in the next election is
It won't make
2020.
any
Won't make a difference now.
Any difference?
Right,
Now,
right.
this makes it clean.
Right. Right.
Hence the term clean.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But I do think that's going to be the easiest thing to go out and explain to people
agree.
what the provisions will be.
I don't disagree.
That's going to be the easiest?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then a good this happens and this, but not that.
Okay.
Let's see if we can just
Drag it through.
go through 804 at this time then. 804, existing laws. The public local laws of the county and all rules, regulations, resolutions, and ordinances enacted by the county commissioners in force on the effective date of the charter shall continue in full force until repealed or amended. To the extent that any of the public local laws of the county or rules, regulations, resolutions, or ordinances, or any parts thereof are inconsistent with the provisions of this charter, they are repealed. Okay,
Before we go on, so we've got the next piece of that, right? So that's the one we were talking about, land use?
Right. Right.
All right, so we're going to pop, do you want to listen to that with that again, or are you guys comfortable with what we've said about land use?
So will that go under 704?
Yeah,
or-
it would be, right at the moment,
It'd be like A and
804B,
B?
yeah, right,
Okay.
it would be B.
Gotcha.
804B?
Yeah, this
Land use.
becomes A, and then what we talked about before becomes B. The land use one.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. yeah.
okay, I just got a little bit lost there. What are we,
So, under existing laws, right, we just read that piece, and now we're going to put the same thing, I'm going to read it again. The provisions of the land use article as they relate to planning and zoning authority stand adopted on the effective date of the charter to the extent they are not repealed by the provisions of this charter, and there's nothing in here that would do anything with planning and zoning, and shall remain in effect until repealed, amended, or superseded.
Just read it one more time, please.
I'm going to read it slow now. The provision, I do the same thing. The provisions of the land use article of the annotated Code of Maryland, as they relate to planning and zoning authority, stand adopted on the effective date of the charter.
Okay.
I've got a little bit more. To the extent they are not repealed by the provisions of this charter, and shall remain in effect until repealed, amended, or superseded.
okay, we all good with that? Okay, 805, reference in state.
Wait a minute now, wait a minute, hold on. So, I just want to make sure. So we're saying that in order to amend it, we have to go through a charter process?
No, this is where an ordinance will do the trick for you. So what we were talking about before, we took that out. That was in the article.
Right.
We just took that out. That required a charter provision before you could do anything different with
Okay.
your land use.
Okay, I'll just leave it alone till it's in writing so I can read it then, okay.
Okay, then. 805, reference in state constitution and laws to county commissioners. All reference in the Constitution and laws of the state of Maryland to the Charles County Commissioners or to the Board of County Commissioners shall be construed at the effective date of the charter to refer to the council and/or the county executive whenever the construction would be reasonable. Okay. 806, existing officers and employees. All appointed officers and employees of the government holding office at the effective date of the charter shall continue to be employed at their existing compensation, subject, however, to the provisions of any relevant personnel laws, rules, or regulations. Provisions relating to the qualifications for the appointed offices provided in this charter shall become effective whenever vacancies occur in the appointed offices after the effective date of the charter. I take that to mean that if there is no residential requirement for the county attorney is grandfathered in not to have a residential requirement until the county attorney is replaced.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
Just one question. If the commissioners now are designated as officers, are they?
Are they officers? They would be officers.
Okay, so this covers them as
Yes.
well?
Well, we're going to abolish the commissioners. We're going to get the next line that abolishes those guys.
Okay, because I was just wondering if we tinker with salary and benefits or whatever.
Those would go, unless we say something different, those are going to kick right in. Whatever we say about salary and benefits are going to kick right in as soon as the effective date of the charter. So if they're making, let's suppose they're making more than we're going to now. Let's suppose they're making, what, $46,000? So let's suppose we kick it back down to 30. On this date, they've got a $30,000 salary, along with whatever benefit package we're providing them, if any, in this thing.
What if the county executive reorganizes? When can that, I think.
We talked about that in the last one.
And that would still stay.
Yeah, I mean, essentially,
What if they abolished some departments?
you can abolish a department. I mean, as long as there's not a piece of legislation out there, then you got to go through the
Yeah,
council to
yeah.
do it. But so essentially, what this says, okay, what this is about is like, look, everybody's held harmless except and to the extent that we're playing with them in the charter. So that's essentially your elected officials. Appointed means basically, yeah, the appointed would be your department directors, and any of your employees generally, as opposed to elected officials.
Well, wait.
Okay,
For
then
instance,
if I wanted-
as far as appointed goes, does appointed mean they work at will?
No, it's just appointed usually means, it really just means hired, people who are hired, employees. And appointed sometimes, it depends, I can't remember what we have in this charter in terms of who's the appointed authority. I think it's the executive's the appointing authority for everybody, unless we give it to, I think we may have given it to the administrator as well, or in addition, or in substitution of that. So I'm not quite certain what your question is, Don.
That's a little
Well,
confusing.
Well, I guess my question was, unless I'm reading something here wrong, Victor, it sounds to me like in the first sentence that at the date of the charter, the employees and the officers will remain at their current salary, that you can't adjust that unless we're spelling it out in the charter somewhere else, which.
Well, it's
Well, it says.
subject to.
Right. So it's still subject to the provisions of the charter.
Shall continue,
Shall continue to be employed at their existing compensation.
which to me would mean if they're making 45 now, they've got to continue to make 45.
Oh.
You don't read it that way?
But they'll be
Well-
a different they.
Hold on.
On that
No.
day.
No.
They're not commissioners.
You don't know, right? The first 2 years, I'm just saying, if they're already an officer, if the officer's the commissioner, then can we change that unless we spell it out the way this reads?
No, I'm
I would-
reading it completely different.
I would think they
Well,
would, we
let me
would
tell
have
you,
to
the
continue
extent
to
that
pay
we've got
them.
ambiguity, let's get it out of there.
Okay.
And so the issue is the issue is the question, do you want, if people, well, we are starting clean, right? We're starting clean. So these individuals, the elected officials are starting with whatever salary and benefits we're providing in this charter, according to this thing up here.
As long as we clarify that.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I'm not worried about the employee side of it.
Yeah, you're worried about the elected official.
So let's put a
the way I
sentence
read
in,
that.
let's put a sentence in
That's why I asked if
specifically
officers
using
are
the term elected
considered
official.
elected officials.
Okay.
Maybe that's where I'm confused, man, because I'm interpreting that to say, you know, Van's a commissioner up until 2016, right? Charter goes in effect 2015?
16.
2016. So Van's not a commissioner anymore.
He's gone.
He's gone, so it doesn't matter.
He's a county councilman now. If he's
yeah.
anything, if he's
If he's
elected,
anything.
he's-
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because now, Camilla was elected, so those now rules apply to her, but not to you because you're no longer in office anymore.
You're gone.
Well, we
You're
need to
gone.
clear that up. I mean, we need to.
Well, why don't
Taking
we,
his point.
why don't you see if you can give us a little clarification
Right.
so that we don't have different interpretations, okay?
Prior to the election.
Well,
No.
let me ask this question. Then you're making an assumption that the effective date of the charter and the election date of the commissioner, or the council, are the same.
It is.
No,
No.
we have a month difference, right? You get elected. What am I missing?
Yeah, no, go ahead, Van, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I don't know, I'm asking.
No, say it again.
You're making, I think you're making an assumption that the election of the officer is the same as the election, as the enactment of the charter.
Well, it's a month difference. And so what you have here is that whoever's elected in November of 2016 takes office a month later. And when they take office, that's the effective date of the charter.
So,
Wait a second, I don't understand that.
I guess I never really knew when the effective date
Well,
of
we
the
said
charter,
it,
to
we
be
said it.
perfectly honest.
We just said it a moment ago, up on top of this thing, the effective date of the charter,
Number one.
December 1.
December 1, if that's. if
Or the
whatever-
first
2016.
Monday in
First month,
December of
right.
2016.
So normally what would happen, and that's usually the way it is, whoever's elected in November takes office in December.
December, right.
So it's the
Right.
same, that's the same thing. All we're doing is that we're kicking it in 2 years early to 2016 as opposed to 2018. So those in office who weren't elected in 2016 are out, and whoever is elected in 2016 for a 2-year term is in, and they follow the tenets of the charter.
Okay. Van, let me ask you this. Since it uses the language in 806, all appointed officers, and goes
I was
on.
gonna say, can we just take
can we
out
just put,
officers?
can we have a separate sentence that just says all elected officials and take care of the aim, but, you know, that your concern?
Sure.
well, yeah, okay.
Because everybody else.
Can you do that?
So you want a provision that says all elected officials who,
I'm not sure what it
Well,
says. What
let's-
does it say, Van?
well, hold on, hold on. Let's go to 808 before we get into it, because we just abolished it. Let's say, before we get into that, go to 808, the very last provision. Let's see if that solves people's problems.
Okay. 808, Office of the County Commissioner abolished. At the effective date of the charter, the Office of County Commissioner shall cease to exist, and all reference to the office and the Board of County Commissioners in the Maryland Constitution or in any law, ordinance, rule, or regulation shall be construed to refer to the office of council member or the council and/or the office of the county executive or the county executive whenever the construction would be reasonable.
So doesn't that nail it down?
No.
With the
Yeah.
effective date of the charter.
Well,
I just don't understand why the word
Officer counts.
officers.
Well,
I would, if you're concerned about employees, which I understand,
An officer could also be. It's a broader term than just an elected official. An officer could also be, for example, your county administrator. An officer generally is somebody who has discretion. So if you're exercising wide discretion like the county administrator would, like your department heads would, generally they would be considered to be officers of this county. So it's a little broader than just elected officials.
Would they be employees also, though? So
They would
what-
also be employees.
So if, as Van points out, if we took the words officer and out and said all appointed employees,
That would
why
work.
don't you say all employees? Why don't you even need appointed?
We wouldn't need it. at that point.
we wouldn't need
We
appointed?
wouldn't need the word appointed.
Does that cover it, Van?
yeah, I mean, I just think it clarifies. I hate the word shall, so whenever I see shall, I just get,
Well, you know,
I
I
hate
would,
it, but
then
I
I
mean, I
would
get
say
concerned with what that means
employees don't hold
and where
office.
it is.
Well, look,
office-
if
but
that
they-
is a
they
simple
do.
solution. Just knock it
Yeah.
out. Let's just knock it out. We'll call all employees of the government, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Okay, now, back to my other question. So I just want to make sure this does not interfere with down the road, 90 days or whatever we gave the county executive time to look at and come up with a plan of organization. This does not say, okay, everybody that was employed at this date, they get to be employed forever.
No, it does not say that. I mean, that's it just says,
Well,
shall continue to be employed at their existing, and by the way, this is just transition, right?
Only works
At
the
their
federal
existing
level.
compensation, subject, however, to the provisions of any relevant personnel laws, rules or regulations. So if you're going to fire the guy for whatever
yeah, but you
reason,
just-
we're out the door.
You just don't want that department anymore. It's
You
not.
can do that, and that's perfectly legitimate in all sorts of different ways.
Okay.
So what are we're just going to say employees, all employees of the government holding? Is that what we're going to
Existing
do?
employees.
All existing employees?
Shall continue to be employed at their existing compensation, subject, however, to. Is that what we're doing? Does that cover it?
Well,
Covers it for
Well-
Van? How, Paula, does it cover it
how
for
about
you?
well, I don't know. I think there may be another
Provision
word
relating to the-
besides laws, rules, or regulations because it's,
Point out.
You think?
Provision relating to the.
because
That
it's
was
not a
supposed to be-
law and it's not. I mean, reorganization is not any of those. It's some kind of
I,
authority given the executive.
yeah, well, when I read this too, I'm wondering if it could be interpreted
Well,
to
whenever vacancies occur. You know, you hold off until, and you're going to appoint new people whenever a vacancy occurs. So, and we're going to have vacancies according to the personnel rules, laws, and regulations. So, you know, if you reorganize, Paula, and you say, oh, by the
Okay,
way, this
I
department doesn't exist anymore, that person,
I
we're
just want to
gone.
make sure that
I got you.
we have that flexibility. Somebody is, well, you can't change it.
But wait a minute now.
Yeah.
This thing is saying to me right now that once this charter becomes effective, that all these people keep their jobs.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Subject to any personnel rules, regulations, blah, blah, blah.
Now, and that could be that
Reorganization.
reorganization or that I want to fire this person.
You betcha.
So it doesn't tie the hands of the county executive.
What it does, what this is meant to do, essentially, is to give consolation to those who are worried about, oh my God,
Right.
we're
Yeah.
changing our form of government. Where am I in that?
Yeah, yeah. I
And
get
so
it.
this is just trying to say, hey, nothing's happening to you unless we're taking you out by
Unless
the
it
charter.
is.
Right. Yeah. Unless it is.
Now, why can't we just say that? It's just nice and simple.
That's my shorthand.
Supervision.
Okay, then. We're running a little bit longer on this than I anticipated, but let's just do 807.
No,
'cause
wait,
we've done
wait,
the-
hold, Lynn, I'm sorry, but
Okay.
I just want to, subject to, okay, everybody's got their jobs, subject to the provisions of any relevant personnel laws. Relevant personnel laws mean what?
Well,
That,
you got. I mean, Adam, do we have personnel rules and laws? We have ordinances here that talk about what you do with personnel. You give them like, you know, you have. There is probably a merit system that's employed by an ordinance. So there's a whole cluster of issues of laws, and sometimes they're not in laws; they're in a rule or a
Right.
regulation or a policy. All of that stuff's hanging on. Nothing's being changed unless we say something here. In
okay,
the
so
charter.
under those personnel laws and under the charter, the executive can get rid of a department head, right? The executive can fire the county attorney and get a new county attorney, or county administrator and get a new county administrator.
I mean, I think that's not exactly what they mean by personnel laws there.
That's not a law.
I think that's,
That's, you know, that's,
That's
I
the
mean,
power. That's the
yeah.
power of the executive at that point, or the power of your county
It would
president,
be an
council,
ordinance, yeah.
commissioner, president, whatever that would be. Whoever has the ability to hire and fire, and I suppose that probably would be your county manager, county administrator at
I
this
just
point.
wanted to make sure that.
so that's not-
elected officials.
There's probably a personnel rule about that, or an ordinance, but that's just generally the ability of an employer-employee relationship.
Paula, someone mentioned it, the word policy. Is that the word you were looking for, the other word? Can we throw that one in there?
A policy, sure.
Okay. Personnel policies law, okay. 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 807,
We put a question
And
mark.
after we do 807, I just have one question, just to make sure if there's three, are we talking about 3 elections after we finish 807?
Okay, 807, existing members of boards and commissions. The members of all boards and commissions holding office at the effective date of the charter shall continue to hold the same office until completion of their terms of office unless removed in accordance with the provisions of this charter. Okay?
That's simple.
Everybody good with that? Pretty boilerplate. Okay. Okay, Camilla, you had one more thing?
I just wanted to just get a little clarity. So 2014, there will be an election for the commissioners. Then 2016, will be a second election that will take place for the county exec as well as the council members. And then in 2018, 2 years again, what is the term limit for the 2016 election?
2.
2 years again. Okay, I just want to
For
write it down.
2016.
For 2016 to 2018, we've got a 2-year term of office.
And then after
Now-
that, it's 4.
Okay, but,
So this is a 2-year term. So the 2014 election is a 2-year term they're voting on too.
Nothing's
no,
happened.
Voting on a 4,
They're voting on 4.
with the exception of if the charter passes,
Is
then it
accepted,
becomes
okay.
a 2.
So that, I just want to make sure we all have this on here. So this is a 2-year term, 2016, right? So now we're at 2018, right? This will be for a 4-year term, and this is the third election. Within
14, yeah, 2014.
14, that's one.
It would be anyway.
2016, and then 2018.
You're just adding 1.
Just one more than we would have
Yeah,
normally had.
right.
But we were going to have that to elect the executive anyway, so.
No.
Got it. But I just want to make sure that
Right.
we're really clear when we communicate this. Okay, so 2016 is another 2-year term.
Yeah. Now, what we also have taken into consideration is when the council and the county executive run for this 2-year terms, okay, and when we talk about term limits, are we going to consider that 2 years a full term or less than a full
We
term?
have provisions in here that talks about how we handle those types of things.
Okay, so let's go back to that real quick. Which one is that? That's
Let's see if we can find it.
I don't know that we need to.
the,
Maybe we should be looking at our new one.
Oh, we should be looking at our new. That's not new.
20.
What is it, Melanie? 206.
What page is on, Melanie?
5.
Page 5, okay.
Can you bring it up on the big board?
So if it says here, this is paragraph C, for purposes of the restrictions imposed by subsection B, which is no more than 3 consecutive terms, a council member who has been appointed to fill a vacancy and who has served 2 or more years of that term shall be considered to have served 1 full term. So that's an appointed.
Right.
So we really haven't provided for
Exactly.
how we've done an elected.
Right. Now, in my opinion, I kind of think that for purposes of this transition, well, I guess you could say that the 2-year term should not be considered a full term. In other words, they could run the 2-year terms and then they could run.
That starts in
Run.
2018.
Right, that's one way of looking at it. So,
Yeah, you could say the term limits don't apply until
Right.
after the election of 2018.
20,
There you go, simple.
is it 2018?
Or, yeah,
Yeah.
Say that one
Okay.
more time, the term.
I'm not an attorney, but the term limits don't apply until
Play
2018.
one
You
on
got that, Victor?
GCTV.
You got that? Okay.
Okay.
We all good with that?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's, while we have Victor here, there are a couple little things we wanted to go over with you from language that we heard from you with regard to a PowerPoint that we've been putting together over the months. So, Paula, why don't you,
I didn't know this was on the agenda. Did I miss that? So I didn't.
Yeah, because it just said
I
writing,
don't-
right?
it is sort of on the agenda.
I-
I mean, we can,
I found it.
are you, and we can let it go till next time, or we can see,
No, we had
No,
the, we
it
had
was the
questions
only-
on the word only. You
only
didn't
was the
understand
question.
some of the things.
Yeah.
And I said-
I'm trying to see if I have the current version. I mean, if we put it,
And I told him, I said,
But
I
it
don't
was
think we would
with
put
the
it in there if it wasn't.
You never know.
oh, here it is. I got it.
What page, do you know? Do you remember?
It's
Page
one-
7.
7, yeah,
First bullet.
yeah.
It's the first bullet.
Yeah, and to me, that's a true statement. So, and I can explain.
Please do.
Charter government is the only form of government where the voters are allowed to control more than just who is elected to office. The voters, when you start voting for a charter, the charter establishes the form of government that you have. Under all other systems, the elected officials, either Annapolis, or if you have code home rule, it's your elected officials, it's your county commissioners. Under all of those other forms of government, it's the elected officials who determine what your form of government is. Essentially, it establishes the rules, the significant structural rules under which you operate as a county government. Only in the charter form of government is that power to determine the structural rules, what you have in your charter, only in that form of government will the voters determine what that is. And that's established in two ways. First, this board. It's a board of citizens, it's not a board of elected officials. The voters will determine what the charter is, and then thereafter, only the voters, nobody else can change what the charter says, only the voters can. So that's the whole background of why it's the only form of government.
Just one quick thing. Victor, when we go through this, I have some provisions that I would like to discuss adding to what we have here. And one of them is a recall provision. And also, I would be in favor of making sure that an ethics commission is put in the charter so that the politician can't get rid of that. So I'm just wondering, when we meet next time, could you
We can
give
talk
us a
about it
little?
now or next time, or whatever.
Next time,
whatever
yeah.
for-
That's
Yeah, next
the
time.
charter, not the briefing that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about the charter. I thought we had finished with it. I'm sorry. I thought we
I
had
don't
finished
think
with that.
that's the only question.
There were some other only questions
Yeah,
on page
there's
10.
page
I'm sorry
10.
about that. I thought you had finished.
Okay, page 10.
I mean,
And all of these go to what I just
Yeah.
got through saying.
I think everybody, the real issue was.
It's
we
absolute.
didn't author this, I mean, I used your, and then we didn't know the rabbit, your.
My
train of
brain,
thought.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
your
yeah.
brain, and I was a scribe as opposed to a mind reader on that subject.
Yeah. I mean,
I said, I remember it was important.
to me, this is important, but obviously, you're the policy-making body here. So, I mean, if you guys think differently, that's fine, but I always point out what I just pointed out as one of the huge reasons to go to charter. So to me, if you're talking about charter, you can't sort of ignore that, because to me, that's an important point.
But I guess, this is a presentation, and we're going to be up talking to people, and I guess we just want to say it in the easiest fashion possible.
Sure. Well, we want to
without
understand what we're saying.
For starters, and to be able to say it easily.
So this is accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, well, let me say this then. I can give Victor my copy, and since we've run a little bit longer tonight than I anticipated on this, I can give him my copy, and then we can have him review it and give us his rationale next time.
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
That sounds
Yep.
great.
Go ahead.
Paul?
I don't even remember if I changed the 21 November version. I may have it done with the changes in it, and I can
If you email me.
Email it to
Yeah,
me.
Okay,
Is
even
that-
better. Okay. Okay, I know we didn't review the minutes or anything else yet, but I know it's also after 8:30.
Okay, he can wait.
You can wait, Melody can wait. If there's a,
Motion to adjourn.
any second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, boy. Any opposed? Carries.
Why can't we approve?